When that soft pink envelope slid through the mail slot and landed on my worn-out welcome mat, I nearly dropped the grocery bag I was holding. Pink, only one person in my life used that color like a personal trademark, my daughter-in-law, Kiara, and pink from her usually meant something expensive, extravagant, or dramatic. For a moment, I stood frozen, groceries half spilling, my old back tensing like it already knew what was coming. But I forced myself to breathe, forced myself to hope. Maybe this time was different, after 3 long years of cold politeness, clipped greetings, and perfectly practiced smiles that never reached her eyes. Maybe my daughter-in-law was finally opening the door, even just a crack. My hands trembled a little as I picked up the envelope, the fancy perfume still clinging to it. I traced the letters written in that beautiful cursive of hers, Ms. Mariah Johnson, not Mom, not even Mariah, Ms. Mariah Johnson. My chest tightened, but I kept my face calm. I took the envelope inside my 1-bedroom apartment and sat down on my old beige sofa, the one I'd kept since my late husband, Samuel, was alive. The cushion sagged a little in the middle, but it held memories, his laughter, his big warm hands holding mine during storms, the nights we stayed up talking about our son, Marcus, and the future we hoped he'd have. A future we never imagined would push me this far away. I slid open the envelope carefully. Inside was a glossy invitation with gold lettering. You are cordially invited to celebrate Kira's 30th birthday at the Sapphire Royale Hotel Saturday, 7 p.m. Elegant evening where required. My throat tightened. The Sapphire Royale. A place I'd seen only on TV. A place where women floated across marble floors like they belonged there. A place where everything was bright, expensive, and far from my small Eastwood apartment. Then I noticed the handwritten note at the bottom. I trust you'll dress appropriately. A simple sentence just for words, yet it stabbed deeper than I expected. Still, a small, foolish spark inside me whispered, maybe she's trying. Maybe she wants peace. Maybe this is the first step. I held onto that thought like a lifeline. But if I had known what that night was truly going to become, if I had known the humiliation, the heartbreak, and the secret waiting to rise from my past, I would have thrown that pink invitation straight into the trash. The next morning, the alarm buzzed at 6:00 a.m. like it always did. And like always, my hand instinctively reached for the other side of the bed, the side where Samuel used to sleep. Even after 5 years, my mind still played that cruel trick, giving me 1 second of peace before reality settled over my chest like cold rain. I sat up slowly, my knees creaking like old wooden steps. 59 years doesn't sound ancient, but Lord knows the body feels every one of those years in the morning. I shuffled across my tiny apartment. The wooden floors chilled my feet, reminding me gently life had shifted. Comfort was now a luxury. The apartment wasn't much. 650 square feet, 1 bedroom, peeling paint, a leaky faucet that whistled like it had secrets, but it was clean. It was safe. It was mine, and I kept it the way my mama taught me. Just because you're broke doesn't mean you have to be dirty. I brewed my cheap coffee, breathing in the scent that always reminded me of early mornings before nursing shifts. I had spent 27 years as a nurse, long nights, double shifts, endless tired feet, but it had been honest work. Work that mattered. Now I volunteered part-time at the clinic near Cedars Grove Hospital, stocking bandages, comforting nervous patients, helping young nurses learn the ropes. It didn't pay, but it filled a part of the heart that money couldn't reach. As I sipped my coffee, my gaze fell on the small bulletin board above my kitchen table. There was Samuel's photo in his work uniform, strong, smiling, proud. Next to it, a picture of Marcus at his college graduation, looking tall and handsome in his cap and gown, but no picture of Kiara. She'd made sure of that. She once told Marcus, "We don't need clutter on the walls, babe," but what she really meant was she didn't want reminders of where he came from. A soft nudge of sadness hit me again still. That pink envelope gave my heart something to cling to, something I hadn't felt in years. Yet I couldn't ignore the voice of caution whispering under my ribs, because deep down I knew Kiara didn't invite me to make peace. No, there was something else behind that perfect cursive and expensive perfume. Something sharp. Something planned. I just couldn't see it yet. I looked at the invitation again. Elegant evening wear. Lord, what was elegant to a woman who lived in a 5-bedroom mansion in Crestwood Hills? That afternoon, I began searching my closet. 5 dresses, all at least 10 years old. One from Samuel's funeral. One from Marcus's wedding. A few church dresses. Nothing fancy. Nothing that fit the world Kiara lived in. And that's when I felt it. That old familiar ache of not being enough. Not polished enough. Not wealthy enough. Not welcome enough. But I squared my shoulders. No matter how she saw me. No matter how wealthy and polished her world was. I was Marcus's mother. And Marcus still loved me. And little TJ, my sweet grandson, still ran into my arms whenever I saw him. Even if Kiara tried her best to limit those moments, I checked the clock time to head to my volunteer shift. As I left my apartment, I tucked the invitation into my purse. I didn't know it then, but that pink card wasn't a sign of peace. It was a warning I didn't yet understand. At the same moment, I stepped into the clinic for my volunteer shift. Kiara was waking up in a completely different world, a world of marble floors, glass walls, and quiet wealth that hummed through every corner of her 5-bedroom Crestwood Hills home. I didn't see it, of course. I only pieced it together later, but while I was putting on my faded blue volunteer vest, Kiara was standing inside her walk-in closet the size of my entire living room. Scanning through dresses worth more than my monthly rent, she lifted a sleek emerald green gown from the rack and held it against her curves. Maybe for the dinner photos, she murmured, admiring her reflection. Her closet glowed with built-in lighting. Mine had a single bulb that flickered whenever the wind blew through a crack. Upstairs, I tied my hair back with the same black scrunchie I'd used for years. Down there, Kiara was choosing between diamond studs and gold hoops, humming while she did it, to black women, to completely different worlds. And only one of us remembered where our roots were planted. Marcus was already downstairs, sitting at the granite kitchen island, scrolling through emails on his tablet. When Kiara entered, he didn't look up right away, but when he did, his face softened. "You look nice," he said. She flashed him a perfect smile. Always, then her tone shifted, smooth, but sharp underneath. "So, I saw the transfer you made to your mom again." Marcus's shoulders stiffened. I didn't know this conversation happened. Not then, but when I finally learned about it. It explained so much. She needed help with the light bill, he murmured. It was past due. Her smile slipped just a little. "Marcus, baby, your mom is almost 60. She has to learn to manage her life responsibly. We're trying to build our life," he sighed. "She's doing her best." Kiara stirred her almond milk latte with a gold spoon. "Her best shouldn't become our burden." He flinched. And that was the moment Kiara knew she could press deeper. "I'm just saying," she said casually, "I don't want her thinking she can depend on us for everything. Especially not right now, with the party coming up." My name hung in the air like smoke, something unwanted. Marcus looked down, defeated in a way that broke my heart when I later heard about it. "But Kiara," she kept going, because for people like Kiara, power wasn't something you held in your hand. It was something you held over people. "Did you send her the invitation?" Marcus asked, trying to sound hopeful, like a son trying to protect two worlds from colliding. Kiara lifted her chin. "Of course I did. And I even added a handwritten note. I want this party to be perfect. Nothing embarrassing." Marcus echoed, but Kiara didn't answer. She was already tapping on her phone, scrolling through Instagram comments about her upcoming Glam 30 celebration. Meanwhile, at the clinic, I was unpacking boxes of donated supplies when my supervisor, Nurse Lena, walked by. "Morning, Mariah," she said warmly. "You got plans for the weekend?" I hesitated, actually. I was invited to my daughter-in-law's birthday party. Lena raised an eyebrow. "That fancy one at Sapphire Royale?" I saw her post about it. "The venue looks like a movie set." I forced a smile. "Yes, that's the one." She paused. "You okay? You don't sound excited." I shrugged, arranging bandages on a shelf. "I'm grateful to be invited, just nervous." Nervous wasn't the half of it. I was terrified. Terrified of walking into a wealthy room full of people who shared Kira's polished confidence and sharp eyes. Terrified of embarrassing Marcus. Terrified of being an outsider in a world that didn't want me. Lena touched my shoulder gently. "You're going to be fine. You're a classy woman. Don't let folks with money make you forget who you are." I nodded. But my heart didn't believe her. Back in Crestwood Hills, Kira was taking a perfectly staged selfie, soft makeup, flawless curls, filtered sunlight pouring through her high windows. The caption she typed was, "Grateful for growth. Glowing into 30 #Black Luxury #Blessed and booked." Her followers flooded the comments with praise. "Yas Queen. Woals. Teach us your ways." She loved every word, but behind that glow, a new message popped up from her friend Mia. "So, you really inviting your mother-in-law?" Kira smirked and typed back, "Optics. You know how it is, optics. Not love, not family, not warmth. Just the illusion." When my shift ended, I walked back home slowly, the sun dropping behind the buildings, my body aching the way it always did after hours of standing. But my mind wasn't on the pain. It was on the invitation, on Kira's handwriting, on the feeling that this party wasn't about inclusion. It was a test, a performance, and I didn't know the script. At home, I stared at my tiny closet again. No matter how many times I looked, the truth stayed the same. Nothing in there looked even halfway elegant. Still, I tried each dress one by one. The navy church dress, to plain. The cream lace, too old. The dark floral, too casual. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the dresses piled around me. Then, I whispered to myself, "You'll find something. You always do," because survival was a skill I learned early, and one Kiara had never needed to master. But while I was planning how to blend into her glamorous world, Kiara was planning something very different. Something colder. Something meant to remind me exactly where I stood. The next Saturday, I took the 42 bus to the Crestline Mall, clutching my small purse and the folded invitation. My stomach twisted with every mile we traveled away from my neighborhood and into the cleaner, shinier, richer parts of the city. I told myself I was just shopping, just looking for something nice to wear, just trying to show respect, but deep down, I wanted Kiara to look at me, just once, without that thin veil of judgment. Just once. The mall was bright, loud, busy. Women strutted in heels, carrying glossy bags from stores I rarely stepped inside. I headed toward the department store, breathing slow to keep my nerves from bubbling over. A tall young saleswoman greeted me with a smile so practiced it almost sparkled. Her Namatic red Chanel, "Hi there, welcome. Looking for something special today?" I cleared my throat, suddenly self-conscious. "Yes, I need something elegant." "For a birthday party, lovely," she chirped. "What's the budget?" There it was. The question I dreaded. The question that always reminded me of my place. Around 100, I said softly. Chanel's smile didn't break. But her eyes shifted, only slightly, in the way people look when they realize you're not a high-commission customer. "Well, let me show you our sales section downstairs. I'm sure we can find something in your range." She meant well. I knew she did. But the sting was real. The sale rack had dresses of every colour, but most were either too flashy, too young, or too worn out to pass as elegant. I sifted through them anyway, determined. I tried on a burgundy dress, too tight, a gold one, too bright, a navy one, too old-fashioned, a sequined black one, too loud, too heavy, too not me. After 2 hours, my feet throbbed and my heart felt heavy. I sat on the dressing room bench and rubbed my knees. Lord, I whispered, just guide me to something decent. As I walked toward the exit, defeated, a soft lavender dress caught my eye. Simple, flowing, modest, beautiful in the way quiet things are beautiful. I slipped it on. And for the first time that day, the mirror didn't make me feel small. The price tag, $39.99. A miracle. I bought it. When I boarded the bus home, my dress lay folded neatly in a plastic bag on my lap. I held it like something precious, because it was not expensive, not luxury, not designer, but honest. Like me, and I hoped, foolishly, that honesty was still worth something in Kira's world. At home, I placed the dress gently on my bed and turned to the next painful question. What do I bring as a birthday gift? I couldn't afford designer gifts, or spa vouchers, or anything remotely close to what Kira's friends would bring. But I could give something made with love, something handmade, something personal. I hesitated. Was that enough? Would Kiara humiliate me for it? Then I shook the thought away. A gift should come from love, not fear. I opened my old knitting box, the one Samuel had given me years ago, saying, "Baby, your hands make magic." Inside were needles, leftover yarn, and memories. I picked up the softest yarn I had, a warm rose pink wool blend. Kiara loved pink. She wore pink like it was stitched into her skin. I began knitting a delicate lace patterned scarf. The rhythm was soothing. Knit 2. Yarn over, slip 1. Knit 1, pass, slipped, stitch. Over and over. Hours passed. The scarf grew long and elegant, light enough for style, warm enough for comfort. Every stitch carried a silent prayer. Lord, soften her heart. Lord, help us mend our family. Lord, let this be a new beginning. My neighbor Miss Diana knocked on my door just as I finished another row. "Child, what you working on so late?" she asked, easing into my kitchen chair. "A gift for Kira," I admitted, trying to sound confident. She tilted her head. "You sure she gonna appreciate that?" I sighed. "I don't know." Miss Diana gave me a long, slow look, the kind older women give when they know more than you want to admit. "That girl don't understand love the way you give it," she said gently. "Be careful you don't keep pouring into a cup that's got a hole in the bottom." Her words landed heavy in my chest, but I couldn't stop halfway. "You're right," I whispered. "But I'm still gonna try." She squeezed my hand. "Then knit it with dignity, and wear your dress with pride. Don't let that fancy world make you shrink." Her voice steadied something inside me. Nights before the party, I finally finished the scarf. It was beautiful, soft, intricate, elegant. I washed it gently, shaped it flat to dry, and folded it into a simple white gift box from the dollar store. I tied a silver ribbon around it and wrote a small card for Kiara, stitched with love and warm wishes. Mariah, simple but sincere. But while I spent nights knitting warmth into every stitch, Kiara was spending nights crafting something else entirely, a plan designed not to welcome me, but to expose me. I didn't know it then. But that scarf, the one I made with my tired hands and hopeful heart, would become the very weapon she used against me. And the birthday party I thought might heal our family. It was never meant for healing. It was meant for breaking. The day of Kira's birthday party arrived with one of those unfairly beautiful evenings, the kind where the sky glows gold and the breeze feels like silk against your skin. A night that looked like it belonged to happiness, not heartbreak. I stood in front of my small bathroom mirror, smoothing down the lavender dress I'd bought. It wasn't expensive, but it fit me the way grace fits a woman who has lived and survived. My hair was curled as neatly as I could manage with my old iron. My makeup was light, foundation, mascara, a touch of lip gloss. I looked like myself, a little older, a little tired, but myself. And for a moment, I felt hopeful. The white gift box sat on my table, wrapped with the silver ribbon. I picked it up with both hands, holding it like it was something fragile, maybe because part of me was inside it. At 6 p.m., I walked to the bus stop in my modest heels. Each step felt like a small prayer. Every mile that passed brought me closer to Kira's world, a world built on glass, gold, and glamour, a world that had never opened its arms to me. But tonight, I hoped it might. The bus dropped me off near the Sapphire Royale, a hotel I'd only ever seen in magazines. Its tall glass entrance glowed under chandeliers that shimmered like diamonds. Luxury cars lined the driveway. Women stepped out in gowns that floated like clouds. I paused before entering, breath hitching. For a moment, I felt painfully out of place. Then I whispered to myself, "Walk in with dignity, Mariah. Dignity is free, and yours." I stepped inside. The lobby stole my breath. Marble floors gleamed. Golden columns stretched upward. A grand chandelier hung like a crown in the center of it all. A man in a navy suit approached, tall, graceful, with kind brown eyes. "Good evening, Mum," he said warmly. "Are you here for the Montgomery birthday celebration?" "Yes," I said softly. I'm Kira's mother-in-law." His expression brightened, almost with recognition, though I didn't understand why. "Well, welcome. The event is down the main hall, last set of double doors." I thanked him and walked toward the ballroom, clutching the gift box against my chest. With each step, voices grew louder, laughter, chatter, clinking glasses. And then I reached the doors. I inhaled deeply and walked inside. The ballroom sparkled like a dream. Pink and white roses decorated each table. String lights danced along the ceiling. Champagne glasses glimmered under soft lighting. People stood in clusters, laughing, posing for pictures, adjusting their designer outfits. Then I saw Kiara. She stood in the center of it all, glowing in a champagne gold gown that hugged her like it had been sewn onto her skin. Her hair fell in soft waves, and her jewelry shone with every move. Her beauty was undeniable. So was her power in that room. Marcus stood next to her, smiling politely, though something in his eyes looked tired. And little TJ in a tiny suit stood between them, bouncing with excitement. My heart swelled at the sight of him. "Grandma." He squealed when he spotted me, running toward me with his small arms wide. I dropped to my knees as carefully as my joints allowed, hugging him tight. "Oh, baby, I missed you," I whispered into his hair. "You look pretty, Grandma, like a purple flower." His words washed warmth over me. Real love, pure love, the kind only children can give. But the moment shattered when Kiara approached. Her smile was thin, polite, and cold enough to chill the room. "Oh," she said, eyeing my dress from top to bottom. "You made it, not you look lovely. Not I'm glad you're here, just the bare minimum of acknowledgement. Thank you for inviting me," I replied softly, standing tall. "Oh, of course," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "Family should be here." The way she said family, I felt like a guest, not a part of them. Her closest friends approached, all dripping in designer brands, all circling Kira like planets around a sun. One of them eyed me curiously. "Kira, who's this?" Kira's voice sharpened into something sugar-coated but barbed. "This is Marcus's mom." A few eyebrows lifted, their eyes flicked over my inexpensive dress, my modest purse, my dollar store gift box. Whispers began, low but unmistakable. I forced myself to breathe slowly. Marcus stepped closer. "Mom, do you want a drink?" "I can," but Kiara cut in smoothly. "Actually, Marcus, let's make sure my parents are settled first, okay?" Marcus looked torn. But he followed her, leaving me standing alone with my scarf box and my fragile hope. Kiara turned to one of her friends and whispered, not low enough, just, "Make sure she doesn't get dragged into the main tables." I set her at table 9 so she won't feel overwhelmed. Translation, keep her out of sight. Sure enough, when I found my seat, it was at the far back, right next to the kitchen door. Every time the servers pushed it open, the smell of steam and clattering dishes rushed out. Table 9 was filled with people who didn't belong anywhere else, distant relatives, plus ones no one knew, and workers from Marcus's job who seemed just as surprised to see me. A woman next to me said, "Honey, why they got you back here? You Kira's mother-in-law, right?" I smiled weakly. It's fine, but inside. It wasn't fine. Not at all. And yet, this was only the beginning. The real humiliation, the one Kiara planned with precision, was still waiting for me. Dinner came and went in a blur of clinking glasses, laughter from the main tables, and the constant swing of kitchen doors behind me. Every time the door opened, a puff of heat and the metallic smell of pans washed over my table, but I kept my head high. I kept reminding myself why I came, for Marcus, for little TJ, for peace. At 8:30, the lights dimmed, the DJ's voice boomed across the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Kiara to open her birthday gifts." Cheers erupted, people moved closer to the stage. Cameras came out, phones angled high. The show was beginning. I felt a knot form in my stomach. I wasn't ready. And I didn't know why. Not yet, but something in my spirit whispered, "Steady yourself." Kiara glided to the stage like she was floating, gown shimmering, smile dazzling, confidence dripping off her like expensive perfume. Marcus stood beside her, holding little TJ's hand. Her friends flanked the stage, positioning themselves perfectly for photos. The first gift was from her best friend, Jordan, a sleek black Prada box. "Oh, what is this?" Kiara squealed. Inside, a designer clutch. The crowd applauded. Next came a jewelry box, a diamond tennis bracelet. Flashes popped like fireworks. Then came 3 spa vouchers, a luxury perfume set, and a pair of high-end heels. Each gift was worth more than my month's rent. People cheered louder with every opening. Every present was bigger, shinier, pricier, and then the DJ cleared his throat. "Next we have Mariah Johnson, Kira's mother-in-law." My heart stopped. Every eye turned toward the back of the ballroom, toward table 9, toward me. It felt like the air thinned. The room blurred. I stood up slowly, hands trembling around the white gift box. Patricia, the woman sitting beside me, whispered, "Take a deep breath, baby. You got this." But my legs felt like wood. The walk from table 9 to the stage felt endless. A soft murmur spread through the crowd. "Who is she? What's in the box? Why does she look nervous?" When I reached the steps, I held onto the railing, afraid my knees might give out. Marcus held his hand out, helping me onto the stage. His face was gentle, apologetic. Even Kira's face was unreadable. A smile stretched across her lips, but her eyes held something else entirely, something colder. "Go ahead," she said sweetly, microphone in hand. "Let's see what you brought." I swallowed, unable to speak. I held out the gift box. She took it, lightly, as if it weighed nothing. But it held 6 weeks of my heart. She turned toward the audience with a dramatic flourish. "Ooh, a little homemade box." Giggles spread. My ears burned. Kiara lifted the lid slowly, like she was playing to the cameras. She pulled the scarf out. Gasps. Not of admiration, but of confusion. And then amusement. A scarf. She tilted her head, feigning innocence. "In June, in California." Laughter burst through the room. She held it up like an oddity. "A strange relic." "Oh wow," she said into the mic. "You were upon it yourself." My throat tightened. "Yes, how?" "Creative," she interrupted, voice dripping with condescension. More laughter. She wasn't done. No, really, this is adorable. So vintage, she dangled the scarf between two fingers. I guess it's sentimental. Sarah, her friend, whispered loudly, "Oh, that's so precious." The word sliced through me. Not precious with affection, but precious like a toddler's. Scribble, I felt naked, exposed, my heart unraveling like the yarn in her hands, but Kiara wasn't. Finished, Kiara turned to the audience. With a bright smile, "You know," she said, "this would be perfect for one of those donation drives. They always need handmade stuff like this." The room erupted in laughter. Loud, cruel, echoing. People stared at me, not with kindness, but with entertainment. Marcus flinched. TJ looked confused. Patricia covered her mouth in shock. My eyes blurred. My throat closed. I felt like the brightest spotlight in the world was shining down on my shame. Kiara walked closer, thrusting the mic gently toward me. "Isn't that right, Mariah?" My lip trembled. I swallowed hard. I made it with love. Her smile froze, sharp as glass. "AWWWW," she mocked softly. "Of course you did." The room howled. My heart cracked. Cracked in front of strangers who didn't know me. Cracked in front of my son who didn't defend me. Cracked in front of a daughter-in-law who seemed to enjoy the sound. I couldn't stay. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. I stepped down from the stage. Each step felt like sinking deeper into something heavy and dark. I didn't look at anyone. I kept my head down, kept moving, kept breathing. When I reached table 9 again, Patricia grabbed my hand tightly. "That girl is wicked," she whispered. Wicked. I stared at the floor. My scarf, my 6 weeks, lay forgotten on the stage like trash. But I didn't know that someone else in the room was watching. Watching carefully. Watching with recognition. Someone whose life I had touched years ago, and who was about to change everything. I sat there at table 9, hands trembling under the dim lights of the Sapphire Royal Ballroom. Laughter still echoed around me like cruel ripples on water. Long after Kiara tossed aside the scarf I had wear upon with more love than she'd ever shown me. The gift opening continued, but I couldn't hear anything anymore. Everything was muffled, like I was underwater. Marcus didn't come to check on me. Kiara didn't glance my way again. And TJ, my sweet baby, was whisked away by Kiara's mother before he could even run to me. My chest ached. Not from embarrassment. I'd survived humiliation before. What hurt was the realization my son was slipping away. And Kiara was pulling the strings. I stood up quietly, my legs unsteady but determined. I couldn't sit in that room another second, but the moment I reached the exit, a gentle but firm voice stopped me. "Ma'am, hold on, please." I turned to security guards approached, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed sharply. My stomach dropped. "Ma'am, we've been instructed to escort you out," one guard said. Of course. Kiara wanted me out of the picture entirely. "I'm already leaving," I whispered. "No need to escort me." But they insisted, walking on either side of me, not harshly, but not kindly either. As if I were a problem. As if I were someone to be removed. The hallway outside the ballroom was silent except for the distant music behind the closed doors. I felt tears building again, but I refused to let them fall here. Not in front of strangers. Halfway down the corridor, I heard hurried footsteps. "Mom. Mom, wait." Marcus, he jogged toward us, face flushed, guilt written across every line. "Hold on," he snapped at the guards. "You don't need to escort her, she's my mother." The guards paused. Marcus turned to me, his voice cracking. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know I didn't know Kiara was planning that." I stared at him. Really stared. "You didn't stop her either," I said softly. He flinched, his eyes turned glassy. "Mom, please. I'll talk to her. I'll fix this." I shook my head slowly. "Marcus, your wife tried to humiliate me tonight. In front of everyone. And you let her? I didn't. Yes, I whispered. You did. He stood there, small in a way I had never seen him before. Like a boy again, lost, controlled. Before he could say more, a calm, authoritative voice cut through the hallway. What in the world is going on here? We all turned, and there he was, the man from the lobby. The one with kind eyes. The one who looked at me like he knew me. He stepped closer, and when his eyes landed on me, something shifted in his expression. Relief, shock, and gratitude. Ma'am, he said gently, are you all right? Yes, I said quietly. I was just leaving, running, breaking, but I couldn't finish the sentence. He looked at the guards. Why is she being escorted out? The guards exchanged uneasy glances. The client requested it, sir. He inhaled deeply, jaw tightening. I am the general manager of this hotel, he said coolly. And nobody gets removed from my building without my approval. Especially not her. Marcus blinked. Do you know my mother? The manager stepped closer, his eyes fixed on me. Ma'am, he said softly, your name is Mariah Johnson. Correct. I nodded slowly. He exhaled, a shaky breath, full of emotion. It's you, he whispered. I can't believe. After all these years. It's really you, my brows furrowed, sir. I'm sorry, but do I know you? He swallowed hard. My name is David Reynolds. The hallway spun for a moment, then the memory hit me like a flash of light. The trauma room. The bleeding young man. His rare blood type. The emergency call. My aching body as I rolled up my sleeve. His fading pulse. The doctors shouting. My AB-negative blood flowing into him, saving him. 15 years ago, he said, voice thick with gratitude, you donated blood that saved my life. My hands flew to my mouth. Remember, I whispered. You were in a terrible accident. You stayed with me, he said, eyes shining, even though you were sick. Even though you were exhausted. You held my hand when my heart stopped for a moment. Yes, I whispered, trembling. I remember your mother crying. I've been trying to find you ever since, he said. I hired private investigators. I searched every hospital, every nurse list. But you had transferred. And disappeared. He stepped closer, emotion heavy in his tone. And tonight, I watched someone humiliate the woman who saved my life. Marcus stiffened. The guards stared. The air grew still. I won't allow that, David said firmly. Not in my hotel. The doors to the ballroom opened, revealing Kiara, her friends, and dozens of guests staring out because the music had stopped, and then David stepped past me. Toward the ballroom to the to the crowd. His voice boomed across the entire Sapphire Royale. This event is officially shut down. Gasps erupted, cameras lifted. Kira's eyes went wide. What? She shrieked. You can do that. You paid for access, David said coldly. Not for cruelty. The room fell silent. He turned, pointing toward me. That woman saved my life. And you publicly humiliated her. In my hotel, Kira's mouth fell open. She looked around desperately, but not even her friends stepped forward to defend her. Marcus looked at me with horror and shame. The entire room listened as David said, this party is over. Everyone must leave. Now, and then he added, with the authority of a man who meant every word, and Miss Mariah Johnson is under my protection. But what I didn't know was that this night wasn't only about humiliation and justice. It was about a truth buried deep in my past, a truth David was finally ready to reveal, a truth that would shake my entire family to its core. The Sapphire Royal Ballroom emptied fast, faster than Kiara could blink away her shock, faster than her friends could gather their purses, faster than the whispers spread across the marble floor like wildfire. People avoided making eye contact with her. Some were embarrassed. Some curious, some too eager to escape before their own reputations got tangled in the mess. Only the echo of Kira's trembling voice remained. This isn't fair. This isn't fair. But fairness was not something Kira understood. Not until now. Marcus stood frozen, head lowered, hands shaking. TJ clung to his nanny's leg, confused and frightened by the sudden chaos. And I stood there like a ghost, trying to make sense of my sudden importance in a place that had just tried to crush me. David, the manager, the man whose life I had saved, approached me with a tenderness usually reserved for old friends or lost family. "Ma'am," he said softly, "please come with me. There's something you need to hear. Something I've waited over a decade to tell you." Marcus stepped forward quickly, guilt clouding his face. "I should come too," he said. "She's my mother." David hesitated, not out of disrespect, but because he knew the truth would shake us all. "All right," he said after a moment. "You should hear it as well." Kira tried to step forward, tried to insert herself. "I'm coming too," she snapped. David turned toward her, his face turning cold. "No," he said. "You are not," she gasped like someone had slapped her. "You've done enough harm for one night. Ms. Montgomery, you may stay out here, then." In a tone that left no room for argument, "You are no longer welcome in this hotel." Her face drained of its golden glow. Marcus looked at her. Really looked at her, and something cracked quietly inside him. Something he had been ignoring for far too long. I followed David into a smaller private lounge upstairs, a quiet space with soft lighting and leather chairs. Far away from the shattered echoes of the ballroom, the door clicked shut behind us. I sat down slowly. My knees trembled. My chest throbbed. Tonight had already been too much. But something in David's eyes told me the night wasn't done with me yet. David pulled out a chair and sat across from me. Double quotes, "Ms. Mariah," he began quietly. "When you saved my life, you didn't just donate blood. You stayed with me." I nodded, memories of a younger man bleeding out on a hospital bed flooding back. "I remember," I whispered. "You held my hand," he continued, voice thickening. "When the machines flatlined for a moment, you grabbed my arm and said," he paused, tears building, "you said, 'Stay here, baby. God ain't done with you yet.'" My hand flew to my mouth. I had said those words. I said them to every patient fighting for their last breath. But something in David's voice, in his eyes, felt deeper than gratitude. His hands trembled slightly as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn leather wallet. He slid a photograph across the table. A woman, beautiful, young, bright smile, and then a baby, a tiny baby with big brown eyes. I blinked slowly. I don't understand." David swallowed hard. "That woman was my mother." He tapped the image gently. "And that baby was me." My heart thudded painfully. He wasn't telling me something new. He was telling me something old. Something lost. Something forgotten. He continued carefully. "Before you saved my life as an adult. You saved my life once before." I stared at him. "Before when?" He inhaled deeply. "When I was born." My breath caught. "That can't be," I said softly. "I've worked with hundreds of newborns in my nursing years, but only one nurse," he whispered, "held my mother's hand during her emergency delivery. When she almost died from blood loss." My stomach dropped. My pulse raced. "That night," he said, voice trembling, "the only reason I survived was because the nurse on duty, you, Mariah, gave her blood, even though you weren't on shift." I covered my mouth again, tears spilling. "Your mother lost a dangerous amount of blood," I whispered. "I remember a case like that. She was alone, crying. She died 2 days later," he finished softly. "But before she died, she kept saying the same things over and over." He looked straight into my soul. "She said, 'Tell the nurse. Tell her my baby lives because of her.'" My chest caved in. I sobbed quietly. Memories washing over me. The desperate mother, the emergency transfusion, that tiny infant fighting for life. "I never forgot you," David whispered. I spent 15 years looking for the woman who saved me twice, as a baby, and again as a grown man. My tears fell harder. You were that baby? Yes, he whispered, and you saved me again when I had no blood left. Marcus stood behind me, swallowing back tears of his own. So, you're saying, my mom saved your life twice? He asked, voice cracking. David nodded. And I am forever in her debt. I cried into my hands, overwhelmed. Heartbroken, humbled, shocked. Marcus stepped forward slowly, eyes filled with something I had longed to see, understanding, remorse and love. Mom, he whispered, voice trembling, I'm so sorry. I'm so ashamed. I looked up at my son, the boy I raised, the man I loved, and saw the good in him resurfacing after being buried under Kiara's pride. He knelt beside my chair. I let Kiara treat you like trash. I let her push you aside. I let money blind me. He took my hands gently. You deserved better. You always did, for the first time in years. I felt my son return to me. Not the man Kiara controlled. Not the man ashamed of his roots. But the boy Samuel and I raised with love. The lounge door suddenly burst open. Kiara stormed in, eyes wild, mascara smudged, voice shrill. Marcus, you need to come with me right now. She froze when she saw us. When she saw me crying. When she saw Marcus kneeling. When she saw David, no longer polite, but protective. What is going on? She demanded. Marcus stood up slowly. Kiara, he said firmly, you humiliated my mother tonight. And I let you. But I won't ever let you do it again, she scoffed. Are you serious right now? Yes, he said. For the first time, I am. She stared between us, her world unraveling. What about us? What about our image? What about Kiara? Marcus interrupted. Our marriage lost its heart the moment you decided my mother wasn't worthy of dignity. Silence. Cold, sharp, final. David stepped beside me, protective, respectful. You should leave. Ms. Montgomery, he said. Kara looked around one last time, at Marcus turning away, at me being comforted, at David standing guard, and realized she had no control left. Her voice cracked. You all don't know what you're doing. But she knew. She had lost. She stormed out, heels clacking like shattered glass. But as the door closed behind her, David turned to me with one more truth, one final revelation that would change everything we thought we knew. A revelation about why he felt so deeply connected to me, and what tied our lives together long before this night, something that would bind our families in a way none of us ever expected. The door clicked shut behind Kiara, leaving a strange stillness in the lounge. A stillness filled not with tension, but with truth ready to finally breathe. I wiped my tears and sat upright, still trying to steady myself after everything. Marcus stood beside me, eyes red, face heavy with guilt, but also with determination. And David, the man whose life I had unknowingly touched twice, stood quiet for a moment, as if gathering the courage to reveal the last piece of a puzzle he'd been holding for years. Mariah, he began softly, hands clasped tightly. There's one more thing you need to know. My heart raced. Tonight had already given me more shocks than my soul was prepared for. But something about his tone, gentle, hesitant, told me this final truth wouldn't hurt me. It would change me. David took a breath. When I started searching for you years ago, I didn't have much to go on. Just a first name and the memory of your voice. Every lead went cold. Every hospital had missing files or incomplete records. I nodded, remembering how often I'd transferred hospitals, especially after Samuel died. Life had been chaotic then. David continued. 3 months ago, something changed. I received a box of old medical archives from the hospital where you first saved me as a newborn. And inside that box, I found something. He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a sealed envelope, a yellowed, time-stained envelope. He handed it to me gently. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside was a folded note, handwritten, faded from age. but still readable. It was from his mother. My breath caught. Marcus leaned over, eyes wide. David swallowed hard and whispered, "Read it." I unfolded the letter slowly. The handwriting was shaky, like it had been written in pain. Or near the end, "To the nurse who saved my baby." I froze. Marcus squeezed my shoulder. I continued reading. "I don't know your full name, but I know your heart. You gave your blood, your strength, and your kindness when no one else did. I heard the doctors say my chances are low. So I want you to hear this. My son lives because of you." My throat closed. Tears blurred the ink. I took a deep breath and kept reading. "If anything happens to me, please know that I prayed for God to send someone into his life to protect him. The same way you protected him and me tonight." My hands shook violently. Marcus whispered, "Mom, she wrote this to you." I kept reading through the tears. "If he ever finds you, tell him you were an angel in our darkest hour. Tell him he was surrounded by love, even from strangers. Tell him my last prayer was this, that he would someday return that love to you." I gasped sharply. Marcus covered his mouth in disbelief. David's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. The letter ended with, "You saved us both. Someday he will save you too." My body shook with sobs I didn't know were still inside me. The room blurred. The walls dissolved. It was just me, a young mother from the past, a newborn who almost didn't make it. And the man who stood before me now. David knelt beside me. "Miss Mariah," he whispered, voice cracking, "I believe tonight was that moment." I sobbed harder. He continued, "You saved me twice. Once when I was born, once as a grown man. And tonight, when I saw them humiliate you, I knew I couldn't stay silent. Not when you were the reason I got a second chance at life." Marcus stepped forward then, tears streaming down his face. "Mom," he whispered, "I let Kira's pride blind me. I forgot my roots. I forgot the strength you raised me with. But not anymore." He knelt beside me, the same way he knelt beside me as a little boy when he scraped his knee or when we prayed before bedtime. "I'm done letting anyone disrespect you. I'm done staying silent. I'm so sorry." I cupped his face with both hands, tears falling freely. "My baby," I whispered, "you found your way back. That's all I ever prayed for." He hugged me tightly, the kind of hug that heals years of distance in seconds. As we wiped our faces, David cleared his throat gently. "There is more I want to offer you," he said softly, "but only if you allow it." I nodded slowly. He continued, "I've seen too many people hurt by the powerful and wealthy who think kindness is weakness. So I want to help you with dignity. Whatever you need. Opportunities, support, protection. This isn't charity. This is gratitude." His sincerity wrapped around me like warmth. And he added gently, "I have a position here at the hotel. A guest relations consultant. Flexible hours, good pay. You have the grace, the empathy, the presence. You'd be perfect." Marcus's face lit with pride. "Mom, you'd be amazing at that." I blinked through tears. I don't know what to say." David smiled. "Say yes only if you want to. But you will never be disrespected again. Not here. Not anywhere for the first time in years." I felt seen. Not as someone's mother-in-law. Not as someone's burden. But as myself. As Mariah. The next morning, Marcus walked into the house he shared with Kira. Calm, firm, steady. Kira stood in the living room, mascara smudged, pacing anxiously. "Marcus, thank God. Listen, we can spin this. We can blame that man. We can—" "No," Marcus said. One word. Sharp, solid. UNMOVABLE. Kara froze. "Our marriage needs space," he said. "And you need to face what you did. I won't be living here for now. And TJ will spend time with both of us, but under my terms." She gasped. "Marcus, you can't just—" "Yes," he said, "I can." And he did. He packed his things. He took TJ for the day. He left Kiara with the one thing she'd feared most, herself. 3 weeks later, I started working at the Sapphire Royale. Not as a housekeeper, not as a volunteer, but as a respected consultant. Guests loved me. The staff adored me. And every time I walked through the halls, people greeted me with kindness, real kindness. David checked on me often, his gratitude still evident in every interaction. Marcus and I rebuilt our bond. He visited me weekly with TJ. We laughed more. We healed. Kira tried. But Marcus wasn't ready. And she wasn't willing to change. As for me, I finally understood something. Sometimes life takes everything from you before giving you back something better. Not wealth, not status, but truth, love, respect, family restored, and a reminder the kindness you give into the world always finds its way back, even if it takes a lifetime.